Rain poured endlessly over the city that evening, turning the streets into mirrors that reflected the flickering lights of passing cars. Inside a small cafe tucked at the corner of Maple Avenue, a man in a dark suit sat silently by the window, staring into his untouched cup of coffee. His face, usually seen in magazines and business columns, looked worn and empty. This was Adrian Cole, the youngest self-made CEO in the country, a man everyone admired for his success, yet no one truly knew. He was the kind of man who could buy anything except peace, who had built an empire but lost his soul along the way. Before we dive deeper into this emotional story, take a moment. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of compassion, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel. It helps us spread stories that heal hearts and remind us what being human truly means. The cafe was almost empty that night, the soft hum of jazz music filling the air. Outside, the storm raged, but inside, time seemed to stand still. Adrian's reflection on the window looked like a stranger's. His once confident eyes were hollow, his posture slouched. He wasn't thinking about profits or deals tonight. He was thinking about everything he had lost. A week ago, his mother had passed away quietly in a small hospital bed, alone, while Adrian was stuck in a meeting across the country. She had left him a message that said, "You've built the world, my son, but don't forget to live in it." That single sentence had broken him in a way no business loss ever could. The loneliness that followed was unbearable. Adrian had spent his entire life running from poverty, from humiliation, from the feeling of never being enough. He had promised himself that one day he'd rise so high that no one could ever look down on him again, and he did. But in doing so, he had built walls so high that not even love could climb over them. The phone calls from old friends had stopped. The laughter from his early days felt like a ghost in the back of his mind. His success had come at the cost of his humanity. As he sat in that cafe, he wondered when life had become so empty. The rain outside blurred everything, the cars, the people, the lights, just like his memories blurred with regret. He was supposed to meet someone that night, but he had canceled, as he always did. It was easier to be alone than to pretend everything was fine. He watched the door swing open now and then, the bell chiming softly as new customers entered seeking warmth. None of them noticed the lonely man in the corner, and he preferred it that way. Until a small, unexpected voice broke the silence. "Are you okay, sir?" Adrian turned slowly. Standing beside his table was a little girl, no more than 7, holding a small, worn umbrella and clutching a stuffed bunny to her chest. Her cheeks were flushed from the cold, and her eyes, wide, innocent, and full of concern, looked straight into his. She didn't look afraid or hesitant. She simply cared. For a moment, Adrian didn't know what to say. No one had asked him that question, not sincerely, in years. He forced a small smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. The girl tilted her head, studying him as though she could see through every layer of his carefully built armor. "You look sad," she said softly. "My mommy says when someone looks sad, you should talk to them." He wanted to tell her that he was fine, that adults didn't need saving, especially not by little girls with stuffed animals. But something about her presence stopped him. Maybe it was the simplicity of her words, the pure, unfiltered concern in her voice. Or maybe it was the way she reminded him of a past long buried, of when his mother used to say the same thing. Whenever he came home from school looking defeated, the girl smiled brightly and pointed to the chair across from him. "Can I sit?" she asked. Adrian nodded, and she climbed up, her small legs dangling above the floor. She placed her bunny on the table carefully, as if introducing a friend. "His name's Mr. Buttons," she said with pride. "He listens when people are sad." Adrian felt an unfamiliar warmth tug at his chest. He couldn't remember the last time someone had simply sat with him without wanting something in return. The little girl began telling him about her day, how she and her mother had gone to the park, how she'd fed ducks, and how her favorite duck had a feather that stuck up like a crown. Her words were light, her laughter unrestrained. Adrian found himself listening, really listening, for the first time in a long while. The cafe lights flickered softly against the raindrops, casting a gentle glow over the table. For a fleeting moment, Adrian felt as if the weight pressing on his heart had lifted slightly. The girl suddenly stopped talking and studied him again. "You still look sad," she said. "Did someone make you cry?" Adrian's throat tightened. He wanted to laugh it off, but the truth caught him before he could speak. "Someone I loved very much went away," he whispered. The girl's eyes softened. She reached across the table, her tiny hand resting on his. "My daddy went away too," she said quietly. "Mommy says he's in heaven now. Maybe your someone is there too. Maybe they're friends." Those words pierced through Adrian's heart like sunlight breaking through clouds. He could feel tears pressing against his eyes, something he hadn't allowed himself to do in years. He looked at the girl, really looked, and saw not just innocence, but understanding. The kind that only comes from loss. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Lila," she said. "And you?" "Adrian," he replied. Lila smiled. "That's a nice name. You should smile more, Adrian. When you smile, your eyes look less tired." He let out a shaky laugh, the first genuine sound of joy he'd made in months. It felt strange, fragile, but real. Lila beamed as if she'd accomplished something grand. "See? Better already." Minutes turned into nearly an hour as they talked. Adrian learned that Lila's mother worked late shifts and that they lived in a small apartment nearby. The cafe owner knew them. They often came to wait out the rain until her mother finished work. When Adrian offered to buy her a cupcake, she accepted with excitement but insisted they share it. "That's what friends do," she said. And for some reason, Adrian agreed. The warmth of her presence began to heal something inside him he didn't even realize was broken. She didn't care who he was, what he owned, or what the world thought of him. To her, he was just a man who looked sad. And that was enough reason to show kindness. As the rain eased outside, Lila's mother finally entered the cafe, breathless and worried. She thanked Adrian for watching over her daughter, unaware that her daughter had done the saving tonight. When they left, Lila turned back and waved from the doorway. "Goodbye, Mr. Adrian. Don't be sad anymore, okay? Mr. Button says he'll pray for you." Adrian chuckled softly, raising his hand in return. And then she was gone, leaving behind an emptiness that felt different now. Not heavy, but hopeful, like a wound finally beginning to heal. That night, Adrian didn't go back to his penthouse. He took a walk through the quiet streets, letting the cool air wash over him. He thought about his mother's message, about Lila's words, and about how far he'd drifted from the man he once wanted to be. The city lights seemed softer now, less harsh. For the first time, he saw beauty instead of pressure. He realized that all his life he'd been surrounded by people who wanted his success, not his soul. And maybe, just maybe, it was time to change that. Over the next few weeks, Adrian began doing something no one expected. He started showing up, really showing up, at his company not as a CEO but as a human being. He talked to his employees, learned their names, listened to their stories. He visited the charity foundation his mother once supported and donated quietly, without press or publicity. He even went back to the same cafe every Sunday, hoping to see Lila again. Sometimes she came, sometimes she didn't. But whenever she did, she'd run to him with the same joy, carrying Mr. Buttons and stories about her week. Those small moments became his therapy. One evening, months later, Adrian hosted a small event at his company. Not a business gala, but a community dinner for underprivileged families. He invited everyone, including the staff who cleaned the building, the drivers, and their children. And when Lila and her mother walked in, his heart lifted. She looked around amazed by the lights and decorations, and when she spotted him, she grinned and ran over, her stuffed bunny still in hand. "Wow, Mr. Adrian, did you make all this?" she gasped. "For people?" He smiled and nodded. "For people who matter," he said. Lila looked up at him with pride. "Then you're not lonely anymore?" she asked. Adrian knelt to her level, his eyes glistening. "Not anymore," he whispered. "Thanks to you." The crowd's laughter and chatter filled the hall that night, blending with the soft music. For the first time in years, Adrian felt truly alive. Not because of wealth, but because of connection. He realized that success wasn't measured by how high you climbed, but by how many hearts you lifted along the way. He had spent years building skyscrapers of ambition, but it took a little girl's kindness to teach him how to build a home for his soul. As the evening came to an end, Adrian stood by the window, watching the city glow. He thought of his mother, of her words, and smiled through tears. Somewhere he believed she was watching, proud that her son had finally remembered how to live. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. Let's remind the world that kindness still exists, even in the smallest gestures. And before you go, comment below. Have you ever met a stranger who changed your life in an unexpected way? Your story might just inspire someone tonight. Adrian's journey began in loneliness, but ended in love. Not the kind that makes headlines, but the kind that makes us human. And maybe that's the greatest success story of all.